listening through your book, hearing your story, hearing about your upbringing. If anything else from this episode, I just want to give you your flowers on that. Tremendous amount of respect for you for everything you've gone through and how you got to this point.
Encore, what have you created?
What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of Modeling Empowered Narratives. I am your co-host, Jordan Flowers, and we are back today for another episode, actually the season finale of season 3, Season of Separation. And before I pan it to my other co-host, man, I want to say thank you to all our supporters, all of our followers, man. This has been a really, really dope season with a lot of dope guests. We've grown tremendously in our support, and the conversations we've had have all been dope. So we appreciate the continued support from everybody, all the love, all the comments, all the things that you shared with us about our guests and their stories. And we have a really, really exciting guest. So I'm going to pan it to my co-host, Hale, to introduce him.
Yeah, absolutely. First thing, I also want to continue, thank you so much for the support and super excited about this episode. This really fell into our lap, honestly. We put out a really great video on mental health, and he messaged us. Is like, hey, I like what you guys are doing. I like your content. I want to hop on. I have some stuff to say, and man, does he have some stuff to say. Let me go over a little bit about the guy. So he is a Master Helmsman in the U.S. Navy, author of the book Imperfectly Imperfect behind the TikTok. Go ahead and check it out. We'll put the link in description down below. He is a content creator, Instagram, 500 or 55,000 followers, TikTok 1.5 million followers, YouTube 26,000 followers. And I would like to welcome Anthony Hyland.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Listen, I'm over here on FanDuel. Y'all got me
Hey,
trying to get my
man.
last minute. What's today is it? What's going on?
Yes. Hey, everything's going well, man. Everything's going well. Again, appreciate you for hopping on. It's great. Get to hear a little bit about you, a little bit about the book, and get your thoughts on a few things here.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I always like to say, thank you so much for allowing me to come in. Before I joined the Navy, I was a teacher. I taught 6th and 7th grade English. So I know how important it is, putting people in front of your students. So for your audience, for you all to trust me enough to bring me in front of your audience, I want to say thank you for that.
I'm the FBI agent in the background that likes to do the background checks and look through all the content and everything. And you messaged us, so I was like, okay, let me check the guy out. Went through everything and stuff, and I'm like, sure, he'll be fine. Like, I'm sure we're good.
Yeah. The risk ain't that bad. You know what I'm saying? The risk ain't that bad.
Not at all.
I appreciate that.
Let's start off with your book. Now, I actually listened to the book. The first thing I would like to say is I want to start this off we have a segment called Jordan Flowers, where basically we give people their flowers on what they're doing, their development, how they're progressing in life, and things like that, right? And the reason why we do is that too often, when it comes to men and achievements, we're always like, let's be humble, don't, just on to the next thing. We don't sit down and appreciate the things that we have done and how we got to where we are. So I am not Jordan, but I still feel obligated. I want to give you your flowers and the fact that, I listening through your book, hearing your story, hearing about your upbringing, people don't understand how big of an accomplishment that is for the type of lifestyle to grow up in to where you are now, where you're successful, you're finding all of these good things around you. You're a father now, everything of that nature. So if anything else from this episode, I just want to give you your flowers on that, I have a tremendous amount of respect for you for everything you've gone through and how you got to this point.
I definitely appreciate that. And it's humbling, but it's also it's one of those moments where I know for me, these past 6 months, I'm not gonna go too deep into it, but post divorce, finding yourself again, and how you go about that healing process, coupled with, like you said, some of the things that I dealt with growing up. People don't realize that you can have a healing journey in the absence of demeaning, diminishing, degrading, and devaluing your former significant other, right? However, what I'm most proud of and most thankful for, rather, is the amount of men that have surrounded themselves around me and, giving me those words of encouragement. And not that the women's doesn't matter. It's just we deal with things that I truly do believe that some women just don't understand, right? Whereby women deal with things
Right.
that we as men don't understand because that's not our lived experience. You feel me? So I definitely appreciate
Right.
that. And I even practice that within my friend group. I tell my brothers, hey, I'm proud of you. My bro, Genty, he has this show on TikTok and he just got invited to the TikTok headquarters in New York. And I'm like singing his praises to the high heavens, like, bro, let's go. You know what I'm saying? Like, when you eat, I eat. You know what I'm saying? Like, we all eating
Right.
together because this is the way I see it. There's far too many plates out here for us not all to be able to eat. So why am I worried about what's on your plate when I got to take care of what's on my plate first? You feel me? So just being able to
Mhm.
acknowledge that in a non-biased way, almost like not almost like, but you genuinely mean it versus, oh, he just saying that because he hating, you know what I'm saying? Or, he wished the opportunity was his. But to get that genuine compliment, I appreciate that, bro.
Going through your book, there's one thing in particular that stuck with me. It was in chapter 3. You were talking about your friends and how you went about choosing your friends and what you believe the types of people you should have around you. In particular, you have an actual philosophy that there are 4 types of people in a group, or at least you should associate it like that. And the first thing was the thinker, then you had the hustler, then you had the social butterfly, then you had the artist, right? Now, I've said something similar of the sorts, and the gist of what I said was your friend should be something that brings something of value to you. So I guess trying to understand your perspective on this is that how important is it to have people that bring something of value, and how does that further enhance your life as well as their own?
So when I hear that, when I think about friends and like keeping people around me, right? The first thing I think about 3 different things, 2 cliches and just a common sentiment, right? The first thing I think about is expectations, right? There's like this age-old adage that's like, oh, your friends know exactly how to hurt you, enemies are guessing, right? So the expectation that I have from my friends is that you're going to be successful. If you're going to be around me, you're going to be successful. I'm going to brainwash you with greatness, right? I don't stay around, or
Mhm.
let me retract that. I don't keep company that are still, and not still just in the physical sense, still in the sense of still complaining, still not grinding,
Mhm.
still making excuses, still stagnant. You know what I'm saying? I want to assist you and get into where you need to be. However, I can't be more excited about that than you, right? Now, that leads me into my 2 cliches. The first one that we heard a lot growing up was birds of a feather flock together, right? However, when I started thinking about that, right, just because you have, and this is the overthinker in me, right? Because I'm the thinker of the group. So I start thinking about that. I'm like, okay, birds of a feather flock together. Okay, so essentially saying that people with commonalities are going to like hang out. There's nothing wrong with that. But then I came to my second cliche, and it's you are the sum of who you hang around. And I really started evaluating the people that I would keep around me and the conversations that we would have. And some people would be like, oh, you doing too much. Well, the reality is that you got to ask yourself genuinely. I'm 31. I'm about to be 32 next month, March 20th, best day of the year. Pisces gang, stand up. Um, I started really thinking about like, yo, there's things that I want to accomplish. Let me retract that. There's things I'm going to accomplish in my life. So the people that I hang around, I need to know and understand that they're not only going to support me, right? But they're also going to have their own things going on. Because another thing that I learned about friendship circles is that when they don't have enough going on and only you got something going on, oh, that's a problem. Because now what happens is 1 or 2 things. Either one, they're going to attach themselves to whatever it is that you got going on, or two, they're going to be envious. And I don't want that. I want you to know that I'm here for you. Reciprocity. That's my word for 2024.
Mhm.
Reciprocity. I want to know not only am I pouring into you, but you're also pouring into me as a humble, genuine friend. You feel me? If you only clap when you win, that's a problem. If you can't
Mhm.
genuinely clap when your homie, your hunger, you know what I'm saying, whoever you hang with, when they're winning in life, whatever it is that they're seeking to accomplish, because here's the reality, this is just my confidence. You can't do what I do. You know what I'm saying? That's when you got to really start stretching them shoulders. You know what I'm saying? Like you can't do what
Yeah.
I do, but here's the reality: you don't have to. And that's when people don't
Mhm.
have things going on. So when I started thinking about my philosophy of the people that I wanted to keep around me, I realized that in order to go certain places, certain people just can't come. And it's
Absolutely.
rough because you would think that the people that were around you the most or the longest, they would understand what you got going on because they like, yo, like this person been grinding for X, Y, and Z amount of time, and they're still accomplishing things. They're still doing what they set out to do. Here's the flip side to that. And it's crazy. One of my mentees taught me this. He said, when you don't elevate in the presence of someone that is, you have to recognize that you're killing off the person that they were once comfortable with. Not in a literal sense, but in a
Mhm.
metaphoric sense of you're no longer that person that would just chill with them on the stoop all day. You're no longer the
Mhm.
person that would just chill in the crib all day. No, you're going to go get this money. You feel me? You're going to go take this class. You're going to go to this webinar, this conference, whatever the case may be. And you're like, yo, bro, you trying to slide? Nah, I'm good on that. Nah, I'm good on that. Nah, I'm good on that. There's only so many nah, I'm good on that before I'm just gonna stop offering. Because I recognize where you
Mhm.
are and I'm trying to elevate. You know what I'm saying? We're going to new heights. So I started thinking about that when I was in college. The whole birds of a feather thing, it stuck with me in high school, but the sum of who you hang around, I'm all about changing the status quo, right? Challenging the narrative. My freshman year, they told us look to your left, look to your right, and the people that are there you won't graduate with. Well, the person that was to my left is my best friend, Ben Bakayoko, and the person to my right was my other best friend, Tyler Beard. I'm about to go to Tyler's wedding, and me and Ben still talk. So it was just like, that wasn't
Oh,
true for me, you know? So in my experiences, the more intentional you are, I live my life very intentionally. The more intentional you are about where you're trying to go and what you're trying to do, the less those expectations aren't going to be met. Now, are things going to falter? Absolutely. Nobody's perfect. You feel me?
right.
But at the end of the day, as long as you stay consistent and persistent, you'll be good to go.
I do want to reiterate because it's very important is that being around people that give you value, you also have to give value to them. It's not something where you have four people that are just feeding into you, you're not giving anything back. And that was one of the most important things that you mentioned out of all of it. Like, whatever you do, or whatever you're trying to accomplish, with the people that you're around, you also have to be willing to elevate them too and give them what they need to make them great.
Well said. One of the things that we talk about, not only the value in friends, we had an episode about supporting your friends, which I think is a really, really important topic for us, just because we don't really get that same validation and applause that it came with us, particularly with us being in entertainment with sports, playing sports in college. I used to, that was something that I struggle with. Before I get into my question, one of the things I wanted to tell you is that that's something that I struggle with is some of the people that watch me grind on this. Like this was a grind to get to even where we are today, and I love what I'm doing. I'm in school for psychology, but I grew up in the hood from a single parent household, and they might not be able, to readily identify with what I do. But you would think that just because they know my heart and where how much intent and the love that I have and the passion that I have for what I'm trying to get at, that it would still be some applause that stayed there, and a lot of it dropped off. And that hurt. That used to hurt my feelings. I mean, actively, because it's like, man, these people. I thought it was, the love was genuine. And you should want me to fulfill the best destiny for myself. And so that leads me into my question for you is, obviously we were a little bit younger, and I think we're still also, experiencing some things. And I think there's a lot of life that we have to be led to even get to certain points and certain thoughts. But for you, when you're like delineating between who is going to be in your friend group, who's going to be close to you and stuff like that, when you were having these revelations, was it very difficult to cut off those people that you had real, genuine, unconditional love? Because at this point in time, it still is a little difficult for me. So I wanted to see, in your experience, was that a hard kind of transition for you to be like, man, I love you, but I gotta leave you there, even though you kind of, was there with me every step on my progression.
The older you get, the closer you should get to what it is that you're trying to do, right? What it is that you're trying to accomplish. The hardest part about it is accepting that they don't understand who you truly are. And he's done some very problematic things, so I'm not gonna go fully into it. But one thing that Kanye said that I hold near and dear is that when you hang around people that forget who you are, you will forget who you are. I'm him in every aspect of my life. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes what'll happen is when you're around people who don't have the same confidence and or don't see you the same way, you'll start to feel less than, right? And or you'll start to willingly push parts of you down. There's a poem entitled Our Deepest Fear by Mariam Williamson. And my favorite part about that poem states, your playing small does not serve the world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that others feel comfortable around you. Now, this is my favorite part. It isn't our darkness, but our light that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who are we to be beautiful, smart, successful, et cetera, et cetera. From the friend perspective, in terms of cutting people off, what I had to recognize is that the difference between elevation and stagnation, right, in my opinion, is conversation. If I'm having a conversation with you and I'm telling you, hey, listen, in this next year, this is what I'm trying to do. This is where I'm going. This is my pathway to get there. And I want you there with me. And you hit me with you think you finna do that? We got to pay attention to those things. Sometimes we look past those things because we just like, oh, no, that's, my boy, he just got to give me a hard time. No, you really got to read through those lines, because once you get to that point, and we've seen it time and time again, like I'm from Philly, you know what I'm saying? So I watched a lot of Meek growing up, battle rap, you know what I'm saying? When he started elevating his rap career, everything like that. And some of the guys that would regularly hang out with him, they'd be hating on him. And I'm like, but y'all grew up with this man. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I seen that, and it kind of gave me the perspective of like, it's one thing for somebody to come in your crib and go in your refrigerator, right? I have a rule. When you come over my house, the first time you a guest. After that, you family, right? Especially if you're going to consistently be coming over. So the first time you come over, I'm going to tell you, hey, listen, this is here, this is here, this is here. Oh, do you need something? Cool, I got you. After that, go in the fridge and get your own water. You know what I'm saying? Go make your own sandwich type of deal, right? Cutting people off, for me, it was easier because of how I grew up. I spent the first 5 years of my life in foster care. So I learned the value of somebody can be here today and gone tomorrow. So in the group home that I was in, the foster family that had me, they had a lot of kids. And sometimes they would take kids temporarily until those kids, got a family that was willing to adopt them, or the biological family came back and got them. So there were times where, and I have to be clear when I say this because it was crazy. I would go to sleep and I would wake up and there would be a child that wasn't there. Not from a bad standpoint, but from a standpoint of like, the family came and got that child, or the biological family came and got that child. There were no goodbyes. It was, I was sleeping, and maybe sometime in the afternoon or evening, they had like a meetup, or maybe it was a court order. I went to school, came home, they wasn't there, or daycare at that time, because, it was the first 5 years of my life. So daycare, and I come back home and they're not there anymore. So I learned through that first 5 years of like, people are temporary, right? They have longevity if you allow them to have longevity. And I take the same, into my relationships. People will only do to you what you allow them to do. And sometimes, and I'm guilty of this as well, we make excuses for people because we want them to be in our lives, right? We make excuses for people because sometimes we can't conceptualize them doing us wrong. We can't conceptualize them not having our best interest at heart because you know me. Why would you do me like that? You know what I've been through. You know what I'm saying? But some people, they're learning those things that you've been through in order to manipulate you. They're learning those things that you've been through in order to weave their way around you picking up on their red flags. So for me, it was a matter of clean slate with everybody. There's a quote: if you don't heal from your past hurts, and I say this on my platform all the time, if you don't heal from your past hurts, you will inadvertently bleed on people that never cut you in the first place. And that part to me is what makes it harder to cut people off, especially the closer they are to me, the older I get, because you start trimming the fat, trimming the fat, trimming the fat, trimming the fat, to the point where if I lose this person in my life, how is that going to impact me? That's what I think about. Like, okay, what value does this person bring to my life? If I can't readily start kicking those off, it's not going to bother me too much. It's going to be, okay, you served your purpose. You are a seasonal individual. And, oh my goodness gracious, thank you, Father, for that. Here's a rougher part about that. Realizing that you were seasonal for other people. Not because of anything that you did, but realizing that you were the seasonal friend for that person because maybe you needed to, the universe brought you together with this individual so much so that you could serve a purpose in their life for them to elevate to a certain point, but then they recognize that you're on your way to a different path and they're on their way to a different path and y'all just have to split. That's one of the rougher ones. But let me retract that. I don't have an inner circle. I have a front line. And this is when I talk about those expectations, right? I don't have a circle, right? In a circle, people can get lost. I have a front line because I want soldiers on my team. I want folk that I feel comfortable enough to know you willing to get your hands and your feet dirty. You know what I'm saying? Legally. You know what I'm saying? Let's make sure we clear on that. Legally.
Legally, yeah,
Get
for
your
sure.
hands and feet dirty. You know what I'm saying? So, in that, I know that, not many people can say, like, for example, and people tell me I'm crazy about this all the time, but it is what it is. I have plenty of friends, actually like 2 or 3 that I can like think of right now that I could literally call right now. This my iPad. I could literally text, "Hey bro, I need $500. All right, bro, how you need it? Cash App, PayPal, Vip, no questions asked. I just need 500. And I'm the same way if I got it. You feel me? Not many people have that type of support, but you have to build that from what it is that you expect out of life. What do you want out of life? And when you recognize what you want out of life, you actively work to ensure that you are achieving that. And the hard part about that is having people around you that don't realize you are who you say you are. And I think that sometimes, and I've learned this more recently, especially being in the military and maintaining longevity in the military. There are people that will, get out and, some of them have had success. Some of them just like, yeah, you just went back to the crib just to chill. It is what it is. That's your path. But staying in, I realized that they're not going to understand because they don't want to. And you can't force people. And I feel like that's where a lot of our heartache comes in keeping people around us. Some of us, we're not comfortable with ourselves. So we feel like we have to have people around us. We have to have people, that are in our inner circle, so to speak, for us to feel fulfilled, right? When the reality is that as human beings, we crave the company of others. I genuinely, and this is just a personal thing, I don't believe that people genuinely just want to be by themselves for the rest of their life. I don't believe that. I believe we all want at least one person that we can go to, that we can lean on, that we can laugh with, cry with, share good memories with. And it doesn't have to be a romantic partner. It doesn't. And that's one of the biggest misconceptions because it goes beyond just cutting off friends. Just recently, like I said, I'm gonna lightly touch on it. I'm not gonna go too far into it. I had to cut my mom off because she put my children in danger. And I told her, you coming back in my life, I had a very tumultuous upbringing and I thank goodness for her growth and recovery. And it was just like, what you did to me and my brothers, I forgive you for. I genuinely forgive you for abusing us, neglecting us, all that. I genuinely forgive you. But I want you to understand something. Those 3 faces, my son and my daughter and my 2 sons, those are mine. It's my responsibility to protect them. So if you ever do anything contrary to that, you're done. Your goose is cooked. And it's hard, bro. It's hard. I talk to my dad regularly. Now, he came in my life when, I was 16, and he's not my biological father, but it's one of those like blood couldn't bring us any closer. You know what I'm saying? Type of deal. And, he's, just give her a chance. I'm like, no, it's not enough to just set a boundary. We got to keep to it. And it's like,
Hmm.
if that's my ceiling, if I can cut my mother off, oh please, these folk is sliced ham at this point. You know what I'm saying? Gonna put you
Chopped
on the grill
cheese.
real
Yeah.
fast. That's it. You know what I'm saying? And
Absolutely.
if you truly valued me as a friend, you would never put me in a position to whereby I got to do that. But I also have to make sure that I'm reciprocating and humbling myself enough to understand when I'm doing that. And I got to take a step back and maybe apologize or reestablish or recenter, refocus a relationship that I might not even realize that I contributed to its breaking.
I want to say something that stuck out to me. One, the piece I want to touch on is that we're communal people, right? Human beings are social beings, so we want to be around. It's an unnatural feeling to not want to be around other individuals, and that could be obviously because of mental disorders, and that's something that I specialize in. I'm learning about as my career path. But the one thing that you touched on, man, it's a hard thing to accept that you're seasonal for, you served a purpose in somebody else's story as well. My major relationship that I was in, man, like that was a hard pill to swallow. I mean, it's easy to sit there and say, people are seasonal for me, but for me to think that that's somebody's else mindset when it comes to me, and we were there together for that period of time to learn a lot, because I learned a lot now that I'm years removed from it. But at the beginning, at the initial part of it, you don't really understand or can conceptualize that being a part of their story as well. Man, that's a really, really powerful thing that I don't think we even get to even talk about more. But man, that was a really, really powerful speech that you gave in that, because that is something I think that's applicable to all of us, is that we're seasonal for other people, and we were there for that moment together, and something that you were there to give to them and they gave to you, if we're being honest. And like you said, I was, you could be a contributing factor for why y'all not there, or it could just be that was not destined for. So I'm glad you, elaborated on that further. So I'll kick it to you, Hell.
Yeah, it's something that me and my friends from my hometown. I'm originally from suburb of Chicago. I think it's Chicago, but whatever, suburb of Chicago. It's pretty close. There be random events that happen, like comeback, alumni type of thing where you can see what's going on, meet the old teachers and everything like that. And we always joked about it, and it was like, hey, everyone that we wanted to talk to, we still talk to today. And it doesn't always have to be a negative thing. You just naturally grow with different interests and different things going on. I mean, you 10 years ago versus now, you're supposed to change, and there's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes it's a positive thing that it's like, I'm so glad I had you for this time frame because now it elevated me to this level. And now I'm taking it to the moon. And definitely the belief in God for me, that God put certain people in my life for certain situations and to do certain things, and then just like that, he's like, hey, they served their purpose, time to pull them right out, put in the next person for you, and slowly build my life and build my character to who I am now and who I am going to be in the future. From your life experience, what you've learned and what you thought of, now you have an added piece to your puzzle that you have children. What are some very important values that you are currently teaching your kids, or just in general, what are very important values in parenting that you feel like parents need to set their kids up for and inform their kids of?
Man. Parent community don't come for me. I think I think the first part to parenting that I had to learn was that there's no one size fits all to parenting, right? My daughter, she's the oldest. She's rugged. We wrestled, a lot when she was younger. It was just her for 2 years. Then came my first son. Then came my second son. They're all 2 years apart, 7, 5, and 3. My daughter, she's real outgoing. She's lively. My first son, my second child, he's real chill, real laid back. And my third, he's just all over the place. He does what 3-year-olds do. So that was the first thing that I had to learn. There's no one size fits all to parenting. There's this book called What to Expect When You're Expecting. It's a pregnancy book. Man, I read that book like 3, 4 times. I'm talking about front to back, and it's a thick book. You feel me? I think I probably used maybe 2 concepts in that whole book for all 3 of my kids. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just like, yo, what is all of this? And I realized that There is no one size fits all. Each individual child carries a different personality, and you have to meet them where they are. Now, the second piece to that, and I think this is the biggest thing that I'm instilling, I wouldn't necessarily say instilling them, but more so like this is how I engage with them. I don't give my children what I wish I had growing up. I teach them the things that I wish that I knew growing up, because there are a lot of things that I feel like I should have known. And then also too, to couple with that, I allow them to be children. When I get to talking to my peers, and I can only speak from the black experience, but when I get to talking to my peers about a lot of their childhoods, and really realize a lot of us were robbed of our childhood. We were little boys and little girls in grown men and grown women situations, to whereby we had to either hustle. Me and my brothers, in my book, I talk about how we worked at Pathmark. And well, I use work very loosely because technically it's considered hustling, legally, of course. But we would essentially ask people to help them with their bags to their car in exchange for a tip, right? And when my mother at the time, thank goodness for her recovery, was kind of strung out on drugs. If we didn't do something, we'd have been hungry, we'd have starved. So we had to find a way in order to make essentially ends meet in earning income to put food in the house, to the point where it became like a whole neighborhood deal where, the kids in the neighborhood will come up, and, we would switch off from time to time. But for the most part, me and my five brothers, at the time it was four. My oldest brother, he was already gone. There's six of us total. We would have to grind, you know what I'm saying? So in that, with my children, just allowing them the space to actually be children, not have to worry about, the roof over their head, the clothes on their back, the food in their mouth, things of that nature. And then, and now, just a point of transparency, navigating, being divorced, and living in separate homes, and really still instilling in them that, although me and their mother aren't still together, we're still a family. You know what I mean? Respecting her and ensuring that I'm not doing anything to down talk her, in front of them, in their presence, or just in general. I don't like carrying that negative energy. What we have and or had, is, it is what it is. You feel me? So now the focus is on raising them. So I think there's a bit of complexity there, and I'm definitely not the first to be divorced, and definitely not the last to be divorced either. But navigating that space, to whereby they don't understand. Sometimes, they were here for New Year's, and my daughter said, I live in Virginia, they live in Pennsylvania. And she said, Daddy, can mommy come down here to Virginia with us and we be a family again? Darn. Boom. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh man. So then, just kind of sitting with her and having that conversation, and just navigating that new space. Sometimes we don't give children, this is my last point, giving children the credit that they deserve for their intelligence. Children are a lot more intelligent than we allow them to be and or believe them to be. And they understand things sometimes better than we think they do. So in
Right.
that, when, I sat my 7-year-old down, now my 5-year-old, my 3-year-old, I don't think they received it as well. But I definitely think my 7-year-old definitely understood, like, although we don't live in the same home, we're still a family. Daddy's, still going to see you. I'm still going to call you. I'm not like disappearing from your life, essentially. It's just what we've been used to for the past 7 years is not going to be our pathway going forward, and that for me, was one of those things that I kind of battled with, because one of the things that I wanted for my children was for them to have that two-parent household. However, what I realized is that more important than having that two-parent household is having two happy, healthy, loving parents that genuinely are in a good space mentally. And it doesn't profit them to be around two people whom are in a toxic situation and or are just genuinely not happy. And it's okay to choose, your happiness, and be, healthy co-parents, than to raise them in an environment that's essentially, in summation, I didn't want to, well, let me retract that. I don't want to raise my children in a way that they have to recover from their childhood. I want them to look back on all of the good years. Are things going to happen along the course of life? Absolutely. We recognize that, life isn't always going to be a up, 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 up. You feel me? You are going to have some adversity. You are going to face some trials, some tribulations, et cetera, et cetera. However, if I can limit those as much as possible, then that is what I seek to do.
A lot of things that you said I really agree with, and in a divorce or in that situation, it should never be something to where you're bringing adult business into the kids. It's very damaging to the kid of having to pick sides because from the kid's perspective, they love both of you. They weren't, they don't know about all of that stuff, and they really don't need to know. Really appreciate you saying that, and that was something for me that I had to grow up and realize is that all that effort and all that stuff you do behind the scenes and as a parent really goes unappreciated, but the final product is what you can sit back and realize. All of us are functioning adults, taxpaying citizens. We're doing great things in our own lives for his kids, and that's something that he leans back on is really appreciative of.
My parents weren't together growing up, so that was kind of the norm for me. But I think one of the things that stood out, and I think one of the things that we could talk about in terms of our human experiences as well, is that as a kid, whether it's divorce, whether your parents not being together, you do have that longing of wanting to be around both parents. And particularly for me, I stayed with my mother, so I played football. My dad was a great football player. He played at Nebraska, but I didn't live with him. And so, and I look just like him. And, growing up, you kind of internalize that. You can kind of like start to blame yourself for why they might not be together just because you might not have the real story, or, what I'm saying, you really have no conceptualization of why things didn't work out or whatever the case may be. So I think it's really, really important. And one of the things that you said that you're teaching your kids is to allow them and to not bash. My mother didn't do this, but did not, I see this all the time, is to not, give them any type of information that skews their vision of what their mom is for them. Let them speak life, because at the end of the day, like, you spent a big portion of your life and you had children with this individual. So no matter what, the place we might be in, whether it's good or bad, at a point in time, this was what it was. And I had genuine love for this individual. And so I'm really appreciative of that. So I want to shift